This is the first time I've ever done a voiceover for a video, but this footage required some context. Growing up in country New South Wales, my landscape was entirely flat, dry, and hundreds of kilometres away from the nearest beach. I always had a specific mental picture of what paradise would look like, but nowhere ever truly matched it. That changed when I first visited Palawan back in 2023. It was the first place that completely lived up to my expectations of what paradise actually is. When I saw those massive limestone karsts rising straight out of the water, it took the landscape to an entirely otherworldly level. I captured some incredible footage during that first experience, but it was also a massive learning curve. This trip was actually my third time visiting Palawan. Heading out onto the water brought back vivid memories of that first trip, especially crossing the bay. Back then I crossed this same stretch of water in a kayak with a guide from Tribal Adventures. I remember the crosswind, chop on the water, and that ache starting between my shoulder blades as we pushed across the bay. Looking back, that crossing was honestly 10 hours worth of the most physically difficult paddling I've ever done in my life. It was a brutal mix of pure pleasure and pain. I also smiled, remembering how badly I messed up all my GoPro footage that day. This time was different. I had my camera gear beside me. The boat was doing the work, and honestly, I remember thinking, yeah, this is a lot easier. If you are coming here to shoot photos or video, renting a private boat is the most practical way to protect your creative process. It gives you complete control over your gear and your time. Here's exactly how the logistics worked, what it cost, and the structural mistakes I made that you should avoid. The logistics are straightforward. You go to a local travel agency in town the afternoon before, choose your route, and book a private outrigger boat. The tour was initially advertised at 7,000 Philippine pesos, but the guide knocked off 300 pesos, so I paid 6,700 total. That is on the higher side because I was travelling solo, but if you split it with a small group, the per person cost becomes very reasonable. The guide explicitly stated that this price covered everything, all environmental fees, water on the boat, and a cooked lunch. Thinking about the light, I asked him what the earliest possible pickup time was. He said 7 a.m. I agreed, and to his credit, he arrived exactly on time the next morning. Public tours don't leave until around 9 a.m. when the sun is already getting harsh. Getting out on the water at 7 a.m. allowed us to get ahead of the crowds and catch some softer morning light. For that fact alone, going private was worth it. But there was a catch at the pier that morning. Despite his explicit verbal agreement that everything was covered, the guide still tried to change the rules. He tried to charge me a second time for the environmental fees. To avoid any translation issues, I actually had my wife handle the details with him over the phone the night before. But he still tried it anyway. My advice is simple: write things down, have them physically list every single inclusion on the receipt the night before. That way you have the paperwork to stand your ground. The upselling did not stop at the pier either. Once we were out on the water, I noticed he had thrown a clear kayak onto the boat. He told me the cost for the kayak was an extra 1,300 Philippine pesos for the day. We already had a prior agreement of no extra costs. So I just looked at him and said, "I'm good, man, I'm not paying that." He dropped the subject immediately and never mentioned it again. If you do want to use a kayak inside the lakes for the camera angles, I highly recommend it. Just make sure it is written into your contract the night before. That keeps the crew from trying to invent a price on the fly. But honestly, look at this place. In the grand scheme of things, a few extra dollars or an unexpected hustle is completely trivial compared to getting your timing right. Upselling is just a standard part of the Philippines experience. If you respect the hustle and roll with it, it simply becomes part of the adventure. The real penalty out here isn't losing a few pesos, it's losing the light and rushing past the most epic shots because you let someone else dictate your clock. Managing that clock is entirely up to you, not them. That is why this advice, while it might seem trivial on the surface, is so incredibly important. You spent hard-earned money and immense physical effort just getting yourself to this remote part of the world. Once you are out here, the only truly valuable asset you have left is making the absolute most of your time. If there is one major thing I hope people take away from this video, it is exactly that. You are standing in one of the most beautiful places on earth, and you are sharing it at that time with very few people. Do not waste it. Our first stops were Kayangan and Barracuda lakes. Because we got out early, we had these iconic spots almost entirely to ourselves. Walking up the steep stairs to the Kayangan viewpoint with heavy camera gear is a workout, but seeing that classic view without a wall of tourists makes every step worth it. The water inside Barracuda Lake is clear like glass, and shooting the underwater rock formations here is a photographer's dream. Next, we headed to Twin Lagoon for some drone work. This is where having total control over your schedule pays off. I was able to launch the drone, track the light hitting the limestone cliffs, and capture those massive sweeping overhead shots without feeling rushed by a tour group timeline. For me, Twin Lagoon was the absolute highlight of the entire trip. Looking back in hindsight, I really should have stayed right there at Twin Lagoon to eat our lunch. We had the entire place completely to ourselves at that moment, and it would have been an unforgettable spot to just sit and take it all in. Don't let that self-imposed voice in your head feel the need to get to the next place. Relax and take your time. You can stay in the Twin Lagoon all day if you want. You can smash some beer back at Kayangan Lake. That is the beauty of private. You can do whatever you want. Instead, I let that default pace dictate the day, and we moved on to have our lunch at Coral Garden, where we also did some snorkeling. The snorkeling at Coral Garden was absolutely epic as well, but stopping there did bring a minor gear gotcha. I realised I hadn't actually brought any snorkeling gear with me. Luckily the guide lent me his so I didn't miss out on the reef, but if you plan a trip out here, just make sure you don't forget yours. We finished the day tracking the dramatic coastlines around CYC Beach and the surrounding cliffs, watching the afternoon light change the colours of the stone. Renting a private boat is worth the investment if you want to protect your creative workflow. Despite the minor negotiations at the dock, the guide and the captain were fantastic, and their help carrying my gear up those steep island steps was massive. I love the Philippines. My wife is Filipina, and our 6-year-old daughter has Filipino blood running through her veins, so this country holds a very special place in my heart. There is a total sense of freedom you feel out here, like you are on a real adventure every single day. The raw beauty of the nature and the hospitality of the people here is completely unmatched anywhere else in the world. I would do this entire trip again in a heartbeat. I would just adjust my execution based on these lessons learned. Take complete control of your pace, slow down when the conditions are perfect, and don't let a default itinerary rob you of an epic shot. If you want to see the video that covers my entire Philippines journey since 2023, click on the video on your screen right now.